Hello everyone, welcome to the Buzz the Prey Manga. Today we continue the latest Global Freeze chapter, rewritten and edited by me in English for a smooth reading experience. All visuals and story flow are personally edited to give you the best manga style storytelling. Support the original creator by checking the official manga. So let's dive right into the today's chapter.
Chapter 27:15 Devouring One. Haha, where did your arrogance go? In my nest, you're nothing but a fly stuck in a web. Seeing that his attack had worked, Takamisu Hikami's maniacal laughter came from all directions, sometimes near, sometimes far, making it unpredictable. This is the formation prepared to deal with me? It does have some merit. If it were 3 years ago, I probably would have fallen for it. Zhang Yi, at the center of the storm, remained eerily calm in both expression and tone. He appeared to be like a small boat rocking in the waves, but in reality, the Taishi bathrobe steadily absorbed all the energy. As he moved at high speed, his brain worked like a supercomputer, analyzing the distribution patterns of the spatial spiderwebs around him. Although Taishi Yukata is invincible in defense, passively taking hits has never been his style. I've found it. After thousands of collisions, a glint of light flashed in Zhang Yi's eyes. Just as Takamisu Higashino used a spider silk to teleport, preparing to appear directly behind Zhang Yi to launch a sneak attack, Zhang Yi moved. This time, he neither dodged nor continued to defend relentlessly. He disarmed the defenses behind him and instead took a step into the void in front of him. Taking this step felt like crossing the boundaries of time and space. Phaseless boundary, phase locking. It is now. Zhang Yi suddenly turned around, his right fist clenched tightly, the muscles on his arm bulging like a sculpture and black spatial particles frantically gathered on his fist, forming a collapsing small black hole. I'm here for you. Just as he turned around, the enormous figure of Takamisu Hikami appeared out of the void. Before the Kusanagi sword could even be swung, that ugly face collided head-on with Zhang Yi's ready-to-strike fist. This was a clash that transcended the size difference. Humans' tiny fists met the enormous head of a demon god. However, the result was astonishing. Bang! A dull, muffled sound that made one's heart stop. Immediately afterwards, a visible white shockwave exploded out. Time seemed to slow down. The moment Takamiya Sumihiko's nose, as hard as steel, touched Zhang Yi's fist, it first dented, then cracked, and finally shattered completely. The terrifying kinetic energy surged through his entire head, causing his facial muscles to tremble violently like waves, and his eyeballs were almost shaken out of their sockets. This punch is for the humans you killed. Zhang Yi spoke coldly, unleashing a second burst of punching power. Boom! Takamisu Hikami's enormous 80-meter-tall body was actually sent flying backward by this punch. It traced a parabola 10,000 meters long in the sky, like a shot-down satellite, crashing into 3 mountain peaks before finally slamming into the frozen surface of Tokyo Bay. The immense impact unleashed an ice tsunami several meters high, with seawater mixed with ice shards shooting into the sky like a torrential downpour flowing against the current. Damn it all. The sea surface exploded, and Takamisu Hikami soared into the sky from the icy water. He was in a terrible state, his face covered in blood, and his once majestic divine robes had been reduced to tattered rags. At this moment, he was completely unaware of what had happened, feeling as if he had deliberately bumped into Zhang Yi's fist. Suddenly, Zhang Yi's fist appeared in front of him. The excruciating pain in his nose caused him to completely lose his mind, and his remaining animalistic instincts took over. I'll tear you to pieces. I'll devour you alive. He hovered in midair, and the Kusanagi sword in his hand began to tremble violently, emitting a humming sound that yearned for blood. Since I can't kill you in hand-to-hand combat, then I'll let you taste this. Takamiya Sumihime gripped her swords tightly, wildly swinging them at the void while chanting ancient and obscure incantations. Secret technique: myriad manifestations of the swimming carp. In an instant, the sky changed color. The originally gray sky was instantly illuminated by countless rays of deep blue light. That was a high-purity energy body extracted from the Kusanagi sword. They twisted and recombined in the air, transforming into blue carp that were several meters long, crystal clear, yet exuding an aura of destruction. 10,000. In the blink of an eye, the entire sky was filled with these densely packed blue carp. They swung their tails in the air, making not the sound of water, but the hissing sound of energy cutting through the air. Go. Devour him completely. With a flick of Gao Yukansu Rishin's finger, tens of thousands of energy creatures surged toward Zhang-Yi like a swarm of piranhas drawn by the scent of blood. The trajectories of these swimming carp are extremely unpredictable. They move at varying speeds and can even make short-distance spatial leaps, making them impossible to anticipate. Faced with this overwhelming attack, Zhang-Yi did not throw another punch. He stood in the void, looking at the sky full of blue lights, and a strange smile appeared on his lips. There was no fear in that smile, only hunger. An energy mimicry attack? And such high-purity primordial energy at that. Zhang-Yi licked his lips. The gods of the land by the lake are really kind. Knowing that I was tired from fighting, they specially sent me this buffet. He slowly opened his arms, puffed out his chest, and no longer maintained any defensive posture. Taisu Yukata, gluttony mode. In a second, the first wave of carp crashed into Zhang-Yi. The anticipated explosion did not occur. The energy koi, containing terrifying destructive power, disappeared instantly upon touching Zhang-Yi's body, like water droplets merging into the ocean. Then came the second wave, the third wave. Countless blue carp rushed into Zhang-Yi's body one after another. Black vortexes began to appear around Zhang-Yi's body. These vortexes were like greedy maws, frantically devouring all the energy around them. What? The distant Takamisu Hikami was dumbfounded. He could clearly feel that the power he released did not cause any harm. On the contrary, it was rapidly severing the connection with the original body and becoming a part of it. Zhang-Yi's favorite type of opponent is this kind of attack from pure energy. His physical defense is nearly invincible. Takamisu Hikami actually knew this, but he didn't expect Zhang-Yi's defensive power to be this terrifying. Zhang-Yi, with an ability index of 61,000, possesses defensive power far exceeding the limits of Gao Yuchenko Rishin. Even with the power supplied by the Wuji Rebirth Array, he cannot achieve anything. It tastes good, a bit like the texture of deep-sea ice fish, cool and very pure. As Zhang-Yi devoured the swimming carp in his yukata, he uttered chilling comments. As the devouring continued, the aura emanating from his body was visibly increasing. The originally black trench coat began to glow with a faint blue light, a sign of excess energy. Chapter 27:16 Devouring 2. Not enough, not enough. Give me some more. Zhang-Yi gasped. Call. A giant black funnel formed in the air, and Zhang-Yi directly opened the passage to the netherworld. The remaining thousands of carp were uncontrollably sucked into the vortex. Zhang-Yi looked at Takamisu Hikami with a mocking gaze. Thank you for the treat. Would you like more? At that moment, Takamisu Hikami felt an unprecedented chill. Looking at Zhang-Yi, who was unharmed and whose aura was surging, he finally realized that conventional methods were simply not enough to kill this monster. Monster, you're the real monster? He took a step back, his hand holding the sword trembling. But there was no way out. Behind them lay the last vestige of dignity for the Zeepin clan. If there's no, I'm about to make my move. Zhang-Yi opened his right hand toward Takamisu Hikami, and a dark vortex of the void appeared in his palm. Immediately, an incredibly terrifying blue energy sphere rapidly formed, transforming into an enormous energy sphere. Full counterattack.
Boom.
Zhang-Yi gathered the power of the myriad swimming carp into a single point and returned it all to the god of high-ranking mortals. When this attack was launched, Takamisu Hikami was completely stunned. After all, Zhang-Yi had returned all of Zhang-Yi's attack. Having returned to simplicity, Zhang-Yi's fighting style has reached a point where he can do whatever he wants. The total counterattack, one of the earliest techniques used by the Japanese, is now unleashed with astonishing power. After all, the strength of this move depends on how strong the opponent's attack power is. Takamisu Hikami was dumbfounded. After realizing what was happening, he immediately bulged his muscles and fought back fiercely with the Kusanagi sword in his hand. The power of the attack was blocked by the Kusanagi sword, but Nobu's body was still blasted away. The force of the recoil caused Nobu to cough up blood, and cracks appeared on the surface of his skin. Puffed. He was utterly disheveled, his eyes filled with anger and terror as he stared at Zhang Yi, who was suspended high in the sky. Zhang Yi seemed like a god, high above, judging everyone. Since energy attacks will be absorbed, then I'll use rules. I'll use cause and effect. I don't believe I can't hurt you. Takamisu suddenly bit his tongue, spitting a mouthful of golden primordial blood onto the Kusanagi sword. With my divine blood as a sacrifice, I offer this sacrifice to the 100,000 lives of the Gaoyuan Plain. Activate the formation, Boundless Rebirth. Netherworld Hell. Rumble. The whole world suddenly went dark. No, night had fallen, and space had been replaced. Countless giant red torii gates rise from the ground, standing like tombstones. The sky turned blood red, and the ground became a churning sea of blood. Countless translucent, vengeful spirits hovered in the air, wailing mournfully. A heavy, suffocating sense of oppression instantly descended upon Zhang Yi. This is called psychic field. Here, the laws of physics are ineffective and space is locked. Each vengeful spirit will relentlessly attack the soul of the person who enters the formation, causing them to suffer mental breakdown and physical decay. Zhang Yi felt as if his limbs were filled with lead, and even his thinking became sluggish. Dark spots began to appear on the skin. The curse was taking effect. Haha, can you feel it? The resentment of all living beings in this land. The weight of this land in the hell of Rasen. The figure of Takamisu Hikami blended into the surrounding crimson, and her voice became ethereal and sinister. In this realm, your spatial abilities are completely suppressed. You will slowly rot here, becoming one of these billions of vengeful spirits. Field. Zhang Yi lowered his head, looking at the lividity on the back of his hand. His voice was hoarse, and his throat felt like it was being corroded. Using one's own special ability combined with the psychic power of the entire clan to overwrite reality and forcibly rewrite the rules. Is this what they call the expansion of a domain? She slowly raised her head, and her originally dark pupils turned into a dazzling starry blue. I'm sorry, but your hell is too small and too ugly. Zhang Yi suddenly raised his right foot, his white military boot stomping heavily on the sea of blood. Let me show you what a true domain is. Boundless sword domain, open. Boom! A crisp shattering sound rang out. It was like a giant mirror being smashed. Centered on Zhang Yi, a dazzling azure halo instantly erupted, carrying an irresistible aura of royalty, sweeping outwards in all directions. Wherever the halo passed, the red torii gates collapsed, the sea of blood evaporated, and the vengeful spirits dissipated. That eerie and terrifying Japanese-style hell was forcibly torn apart and covered up in an instant. Instead, a magnificent, solemn, ancient Roman Colosseum, exuding an aura of iron and blood. Giant white stone pillars soared into the clouds, supporting this new land. A blue energy barrier sealed off the dome, isolating it from all external laws. The stands were filled with thousands upon thousands of long swords formed from pure supernatural power, buzzing as if cheering for the birth of a new king. Takamisu Hikami was horrified to discover that his own domain was as thin as a sheet of paper, easily crushed by the opponent's domain. No, this is impossible. How could your domain be more advanced than my divine realm? He slumped down in the center of the arena, the sacred yet chilling atmosphere around him, making it hard to breathe. You actually dare to try and compete with me in terms of space and rules? You're utterly foolish. Take a good look, see what a true domain is. Here, I will establish the rules. Zhang Yi stood on the high platform, looking down at the giant beast below. Behind him floated several lightsabers, each pointing at the vital points of Takamisu Hikami. In this arena, Every bit of your power that leaks out will be forcibly confiscated. Every breath you take must be with my permission. Zhang Yi waved his hand. The trial shall now begin. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. As Zhang Yi raised his hand, tens of thousands of lightsabers rained down like a storm. Takamisu Hikami wielded the Kusanagi sword and desperately tried to defend himself, but the light sword seemed endless. Each sword strike leaves a deep, bone-revealing wound on his hard body, taking away a piece of flesh and blood. Roar. I refuse to accept this. I refuse to accept this. Takamisu Hikami, covered in blood, knew he had reached the end of his road. I'm going to drag you down with me. Burning its last breath, the Kusanagi sword instantly expanded several times its black beam of light that pierced the earth, launching a final, desperate charge towards Zhang Yi in the stands. Faced with this desperate attack, Zhang Yi did not flinch. Slowly opened its arms, as if embracing the entire universe. All the energy absorbed in the battle, the slashes of the Kusanagi sword, the bombardment of the swimming carp, and the resentment of the Wuji Wangsheng, has now converged at a critical point within the realm of the It's over, the remnants of the old era. Chapter 27:17 The Great Purge 1. A point of intense black light shone from Zhang Yi's chest. The light was so pure that it swallowed up even the surrounding light, sound, and sight. It quickly rose into the air, hovering in the very center of the Colosseum, transforming into a black sun several meters in diameter. Arrogant like a demon god who had ended a kingdom, hovering above Zhang Yi's head. Blasphemy. The dark sun descends. This black sun did not release high temperatures, but rather released terrifyingly powerful forces of attraction and annihilation. Kneel down. Zhang Yi uttered 2 words softly, then slowly pressed his hand down. The black sun suddenly trembled in midair, and an indescribable, terrifying pressure instantly spread out, like a solar storm sweeping across the universe. Thump! As Takamisu Hikami charged forward, he felt as if a tight chariot was pressing down on his back. His massive body went out of control and he fell to his knees, his kneecaps shattered. Although he temporarily amplified his own power by using the power of the limitless rebirth array, Zhang Yi was able to unleash a power far exceeding his own ability index when he released his ultimate technique. Even at this moment, Takamisu Hikami could hardly withstand it. After all, anything that doesn't belong to you is ultimately an illusion. Yeah. What kind of energy is this? What is this? He stared in horror at the approaching black sun overhead. In that black sun, he saw true nothingness, the end of all things. At this moment, he realized that Zhang Yi's strength was not only greater than it was during the 10,000 Races conference 3 years ago, but far greater than it was then. Even the speed at which he actually improved exceeded his understanding. This is your funeral. The curtain falls, you rat. Boom. The black sun plummeted completely, swallowing up Takamisu Hikami along with the Kusanagi sword. There was no explosion, no deafening roar. Only annihilation. It's like using an eraser to gradually erase the traces of Takamisu Hikami's existence on the drawing paper. His fur, his muscles, his bones, in that black radiance, decomposed into the most primitive atoms. Even the supposedly immortal Kusanagi sword shattered into iron dust after letting out a mournful cry. When the black light dissipated, the arena formed by the sword blade also vanished. Above the ruins of Takamagara, only a bottomless, giant crater remains. The wind and snow blew again, but they couldn't take away the lingering chill of the place. Zhang Yi stood at the edge of the pit, his white emperor battle armor still spotless. He glanced down at the abyss beneath his feet, and after confirming that there was no longer any sign of life, he slowly turned around. With this level of power, how dare they call themselves gods? Thus, the 3 supreme gods of the Rat clan have completely perished. He chuckled softly, straightened his collar, and looked in the direction of the floating warship in the distance. Squeak, squeak, squeak. A sense of panic spread across the entire Japanese archipelago. It was a complete dimensional reduction attack. Faced with the strangulation of the Sand Raider machine force and Uncle Yu and others, These rats were horrified to discover that they had absolutely no ability to resist. Lu Ran piloted a large number of mechanical flying crows, as if playing a war game, easily turning a large number of rat warriors who were shouting bonsai into mincemeat. When the laser weapon hit the body, the explosive sensation was full of violent aesthetics. The body didn't explode, but turned into a red mist of blood in midair. Courage is meaningless at times like this. What exists between the two sides is a generational gap in civilization. Even if they only learned less than 10% of the civilization of the Ihan tribe and the Sand Raiders, it would still be enough to sweep across the land of the marshland. The rats kept charging forward, but they were being killed at an even faster rate. Gradually, as they slowly realized that their courage had lost its meaning, fear completely took over their hearts. A monster. We can't win. We simply can't win. Weapons are useless. Even the mighty army of 100 demons has been wiped out. I won't fight. I won't fight. Even a powerful monster like Nurerahayan was crushed like minced meat in front of Uncle Yu, who was wearing the demon god armor. Let alone them. This land, once known as the Neon Islands, is currently undergoing a literal formatting. With the fall of the goddess Takamisu, the last pillar of the spirit of the land of the riverbank collapsed. The remaining millions of rats did not choose to surrender. Instead, like frightened cockroaches, they frantically burrowed into the deep underground shelters, air raid shelters, and even abandoned iron wire mesh. They attempted to prolong their existence by utilizing complex underground fortifications, waiting for an opportunity to launch a counterattack. However, in the face of overwhelming technology in a higher dimension, such hiding seems so naive and laughable. Fatty Sue unleashed a blizzard, with ice spikes blooming across 100 miles, instantly killing a large number of transformed rats. However, he discovered that the enemies on the surface were rapidly disappearing. Hey, where did they go? Fatty Sue immediately contacted Lu Ran and Yang Xinshin on the warship. Miss Lu, Miss Yang, those rats have escaped. What should we do? Run? No way, just wait a moment. Lu Ran's voice came with a hint of amusement, and her eyes showed some excitement. Above the sky, the colossal black warship, the Dreamer, which blots out the sun, is slowly adjusting its posture. Inside the control room, Lu Ran sat on a suspended mechanical chair with a dense stream of holographic data in front of him. Her fingers danced lightly in the air, her face bearing the cool indifference and focus typical of a tech geek. I thought it was the past? You think you can hide under the eaves and run away? That's hilarious. Planetary-level life detection radar, full power activated. Lu Ran's voice was as calm as if he were reading a weather forecast. Scan depth, 2,000 meters below the mark. Biometrics locked. Rat species. Filter friendly units. Several enormous light screens appeared from the Dreamer, spreading across the entire island like searchlights, then covering the airspace and territorial waters, and extending to great depths. A true cosmic-level civilization is one capable of scanning an entire planet. The Dreamer has completed a scan of the entire island, and there shouldn't be any major problems. Soon, the machine transmitted feedback. Beep, scan complete. Target locked, 347,600 life reaction points. On the screen, the 3D image of the entire Neon Island instantly turned into a semi-transparent state. Countless reds of light are densely distributed beneath the surface, some hiding hundreds of meters deep, others huddled in underwater caves. But in the Dreamer's all-seeing electronic eyes, they were as clear as ink dots on a blank sheet of paper. Chapter 2718, The Great Purge 2. The game of hide-and-seek is over. Lu Karen's lips curled into a cruel smile, the arrogance of a hunter. This is the unique fun of tech geeks. With just a wave of their hand, without drawing blood, they can easily control the life and death of countless people. This feeling is as exhilarating as being in a god's presence. Next up is the rat extermination operation. Do you like playing whack-a-mole? Lu Karen licked her lips and pressed her right index finger hard on the control screen. Secondary gun array, charge. Target locked, fire automatically. Click, click, click. At the bottom of the warship, hundreds of incredibly precise cannon muzzles simultaneously flipped out. The next second, the entire sky was illuminated by blinding light. Hundreds of high-energy laser beams, like the spears of divine judgment, pierced straight into the earth with devastating heat. These lasers are specially frequency modulated, giving them extremely strong penetrating power. Is it rock, concrete, or a steel gate? Before these beams of light, all defenses are as fragile as tofu. The lasers danced wildly, like a light show, but in reality, they were very regular, sweeping across the earth diagonally like an indestructible sword. The laser beam easily pierced the ground, melting hundreds of meters of rock, and accurately hit the rats hiding deep within. Squeak! The screams from underground didn't even have time to escape before they were drowned out by the instantaneous sound of vaporization. One by one, the red dots on the radar screen quickly went out. The entire Takamisu region was riddled with holes. Every beam of light that fell meant the complete destruction of a gathering point. Physical cleanup is too slow. Yang Xinshin, who had been standing next to him, crossed her white hands and looked at the still dense reds on the screen, and said calmly, "While this barrage of fire is spectacular, I don't like the indiscriminate destruction. And we should race against time to end the battle as quickly as possible." Lu Karen shrugged and playfully stuck out her tongue. "If you have a better way, then please, Miss Xian Xian." Yang Xinshin slowly walked to the edge of the warship. The hatch opened, and a gust of wind rushed in, blowing up the hem of her thin clothes. She looked down at the desolate land filled with despair and death, and a dark, eerie light began to flicker in the depths of her eyes. "Since you enjoy killing each other so much, I'll give you a hand." Yang Xinshin stretched out her pale palm and gently clenched it towards the void below. Special ability activated, Fallen Angel Puppet. Boom! A chilling black mist suddenly billowed out from the cracks in the earth. The black fog was so thick it resembled liquefied darkness, carrying an indescribable chill and eeriness, and quickly enveloped the battlefield within 100 miles. At the center of the black mist, an enormous figure slowly rose to its feet. It was a terrifying puppet that was at least 100 meters tall. It is not a physical entity, but rather a stitched-together monster forcibly pieced together from countless broken pieces of corpse and resentment. Its face was a void of black hole, but behind it grew 6 tattered wings made of white bones. In the terrifying hands of this monster, there was a huge long sword, also formed from black mist, the Sword of Judgment. "Go, bring fear to every corner." Yang Xinshin made a pulling motion with her finger in the air. At the same time, the enormous fallen golem stretched out the long sword in its hand. All that could be heard was the taut, clicking sound of the string tightening. Then, black mist gathered wildly on the string, eventually condensing into a dazzling, exquisitely golden arrow. That gold was not sacred, but rather possessed a dazzling, eerie quality. Collapse. The strings tremble. The golden arrow flew from the bow. It didn't shoot directly to the ground, but instead exploded in midair. That enormous golden arrow instantly transformed into millions of fine, hair-like golden needles. Like a golden rainstorm covering the entire island, they ignored the obstacles of the terrain and the cover of the bunkers, precisely burrowing into the ground and piercing into the bodies of every surviving rat. For a second, the whole world fell silent. Immediately following, an even bloodier and more insane hell descended. Squeak, squeak, squeak. The rats, who had been trembling in the air raid shelter, suddenly rolled their eyes back, and strange golden runes lit up in their pupils. At all costs, kill every single rat you can see. This command was implanted in their brains, becoming a principle they had to follow. Thus, comrades in arms became enemies, and loved ones became prey. Without any hesitation, without any pity, the massive rats controlled by the fallen puppets picked up the weapons at hand, even baring their fangs, and frantically pounced on their fellow rats. Inside the underground bunker, blood flowed like a river. Kill, kill, kill. Tragic scenes of infighting unfold in every corner. From Takamisu, It extends all the way to the entire Japanese archipelago. Yang Xinshin has now reached the night level, with an ability index of 53,000 points. She can control tens of thousands of rats for a considerable period of time. As long as these rats don't die, they will spread like a plague throughout the entire Japanese archipelago, seeking out and killing all their kind. After completing their mission, they will execute the final command, self-destruction. So, without Yang Xinshin lifting a finger, the remaining forces of the Zeepin Kingdom self-destructed under this absolute control. Not more than 1 hour. The millions of red dots on the radar screen were completely extinguished. Aside from the howling wind and snow, there was not a single other sound of life in the entire Japanese archipelago. The land by the lake thus met its inevitable end. Lu Karen was stunned by what she saw. The destructive power difference between a knight and a bishop is completely incomparable. Above the ruins of Takamagara, beside that enormous meteorite crater, Lu Karen and Yang Xinshin flew over in their battle suits, heading straight for Zhang Yi, who was already waiting there. Well done. Zhang Yi looked at the two of them and nodded approvingly. It's faster than I expected. They're just a bunch of rats who only know how to hide in their burrows. They're not challenging at all. Lu Karen pouted, looking like she hadn't had enough fun. Zhang Yi smiled and said to her, "This is just the first battle. After we finish here." He squinted slightly and looked towards the west. Those guys are probably about to make their move. Perfect timing. It's time to end this farce. Yang Xinshin said, "In any case, let's deal with the most important things first." Zhang Yi nodded and looked at Lu Karen, saying, "Order the mechanized forces to investigate the entire island, especially Takamagara. Dig deep and find out the data about the Star Corridor."
For today's chapter, tell me in the comments which part you enjoyed the most. If you love manga style stories, don't forget to like the video and subscribe the Buzz Play Manga. See you in the next chapter with more surprises. Thank you.